This episode is brought to you by The Pip Box, vegan and cruelty-free beauty. Hi and welcome to an episode of Can I Divert You from Landfill? Last week I made some seitan using the wash the flour, WTF method, and I wanted to fold in some mushrooms and it didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. So I've ended up with a load of roast mushrooms. So I roasted them in the oven for about half an hour, 45 minutes, more towards the 45 minutes probably, just until they're kind of dry and roasted. And I put salt, pepper, beef flavoured stock and some Henderson's relish on there for a bit of extra flavour. As I say, it didn't work in the dough, so I kind of thought, what can I do with that rather than just chucking it in the bin? So I'm going to try and make some burgers. This might not work at all, but it's worth a shot. This is probably around 600 grams of mushrooms, so you can see how much water is in a mushroom. So I'm going to put that in. This is also a bit of mushroom, and that's the stuff that I tried to fold into the dough. So that's got a little bit of kind of wheat starch in it. I made a sauce to go with the steak, and all I did was boil down 200 mils of port, chuck in a big handful of dried onion flakes and some fresh thyme, and then let it cook. And this is what I've been left after sieving. And it's full of flavour, nice onion and red wine flavour. So I'm going to put that in as well. The oven's on because I'm making some plum and pork butter. So I'm not using it for this, but just if you're wondering why is the oven on. But we're actually going to steam these just to see what happens. I'm going to sprinkle over a teaspoon of beef flavoured stock, just for extra flavour, funnily enough. Then I'm going to do a tablespoon of pea protein. And this is really just to help bind everything together and give it a bit of a kind of chewy texture, a bit of density. So same, just sprinkle that over. And then a tablespoon of vital wheat gluten. And this is for the same reason as the pea protein, just to bind and give it some chew and firmness. And then just work everything together. Once everything's thoroughly combined, in that kind of consistency, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of water, add in half a teaspoon of beetroot powder, and then I'm going to add a tablespoon of potato starch. You could use any kind of starch really, tapioca, cornstarch, wheat starch. I'd planned on doing wheat starch in this, the runoff from making the steak, but I think I've left it too long and it smells a little bit funky. So, but otherwise the wheat starch would have been perfect. Add that in, and then pour this in, and work that together. Once it gets to a stage where it sort of stays when you compact it, I'm going to pack it into these little tins, and I have greased these. I wiped some oil into it just to help the removal. So pack this in as tight as it'll go. I'm just really forcing it in there, just so it's nice and tight. We're here. So I'm going to pop these in the steamer for, I'll do 45 minutes. I don't know why, but that's what I'm going to do it for. Yeah, about 45 minutes, and we'll see what happens. I'll interrupt myself here to introduce you to this week's partner, which is The Pip Box. They're a company that curate vegan and cruelty-free products, box them up in a gorgeous little packaging and ship them to you every month. This is their healing and well-being edit, so each month has a different theme, and this one's all about self-care. So I've got some wax melts. That's yummy. It's not overpowering, not sort of perfumey in a way that some, if you walk past that certain high street brand of bath bombs and it knocks your senses out. Not like that at all. Very subtle and nice. I'll stick some of that on later. Got a moisturising body milk, lavender bath oil, got some cooling gel pads. So it's a similar principle to cucumber slices on your eyes. Pop them in the fridge or the freezer until they get nice and cool. Just pop them on. Less mess. That's the pads. So you can see liquid filled. Yeah, fridge or freezer. And that could probably work as well if you had an injury, like a sprained wrist or something. Cool them down and then strap it onto the wrist or something like that. That might be quite handy. And I've got an aromatherapy rollerball. I've used these in the past, not from this company, but they're a very handy little bottle. So you get the oil and then it's got a little rollerball on the end. and then just rub it on. And I find if I start getting a headache, especially when I'm on the phone at work, put a bit of that on and it just helps ease it off a little bit, which would also double as a nice perfume in a pinch. These boxes are great if you're just in the mood for a bit of a pampering every month, but they'll also make a great last minute gift. So if you're stuck for ideas, head over to thepipbox.co.uk and use code Rachel25 to get 25% off your first order. Okay, so I steamed the burgers in the Instant Pot for 45 minutes and then it's just left it in there for about 15 minutes, maybe half an hour. I don't know, time and space has collapsed again. Let's have a look what's in here, shall we? It certainly smells delicious. Texture's very soft. I've decided I'm going to let them cool down in the tin just to help keep the shape, because I'm just worried if I tip them out that they might deform. And I want them to stay nice and compact if possible. Yeah, very soft. Maybe I should have put more powdered stuff in. But, I mean, the flavour's good from what I can tell. Lots of onion and beefy kind of flavours going on. So, you know, worst case scenario, it'll just be a sloppy Joe. I will see you again for the eating. I'm going to fry up the mushroom burgers now. Time for dinner. I'm going to fry these up in a cast iron pan because it's got quite a nice even heat. Make a bit of a guacamole and stick it in bread. Warm through some butter. Add a couple of cloves of garlic. I'd advise using a bigger pan. Keep an eye out that they don't burn or anything on the bottom, but you want them to kind of juicing up, crisp up a bit. They're holding the shape pretty well so far. If you need to get 4 slices of toast out of a 2-size toaster, put 2 pieces in each. Like that. So toasted sides together. Got my toasted seeded bread ready to go. So I've got cream cheese, and then this is chipotle chili paste. So it's lovely and smoky, deep, a little bit fiery. I am ready to wolf this down. So the texture is very meatloafy, I suppose. Firm but moist. Say that's made out of stuff that could have gone in the bin. That's delicious. Very rich flavour, deep. Maybe do with some oats in there just to give it a little bit more bite. It's soft, but that's yummy. For more plant-based meat facsimiles, hit subscribe, tap the bell icon, see what else I've got.